Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Sunday, the 30th day of March, 2025. And as we begin a new week in the Middle East, we have three important headlines to examine, headlines that continue to amazingly support the biblical picture of our world in the last days. And incredibly, day after day, we see the various pieces of the puzzle miraculously coming together, just as the scripture predicts. This should cause us to be thankful that we are living at such a time as this. What a tremendous time to be alive and see all these things come to pass that scripture predicted so long ago. And so many people in the past long to see the things that you and I are seeing, didn't see them, to hear the things that we are hearing and didn't hear them. So let's look at the headlines. Now, the first one will take you by surprise. Archaeologists find first evidence of epic battle at Armageddon. You say, what? Yeah, just wait. We'll give you the answer to what that means. Second headline, Europe wants a bigger defense industry. This is what it looks like now. And third headline today, Iran threatens to target U.S.-British joint base in Indian Ocean at Diego Garcia. That's in the Jewish News Syndicate. So each of these stories, as we're going to see today, have wide-ranging implications for the last days, as specifically predicted in Scripture. Now, the first one's from the Times of Israel. Archaeologists find first evidence of epic battle on Armageddon. Now, get this. Pottery excavated at Megiddo in northern Israel suggests a military presence, possibly confirms the battle between King Josiah and Pharaoh Necho. That's found in the Book of Chronicles. For the first time, a team of Israeli archaeologists has uncovered ancient artifacts at northern Israel's Armageddon site that might offer proof of an epic battle documented in the Book of Kings, Kings and Second Chronicles between a king of Judah and an Egyptian pharaoh. Two academic papers published earlier this year explain how an unprecedented amount of 7th century BCE, as before the Christian era, Egyptian pottery was found in recent excavations at Megiddo, suggesting that Egyptian soldiers were indeed in the right biblical place, which could be at the right biblical period, and is exactly at the right biblical period. Now get this. Megiddo is the only site in Israel and the neighboring countries mentioned in the Bible and in all of the great records of the ancient Near East. That's from Professor Israel Finkelstein, head of the School of Archaeology at the University of Haifa. He's the longtime director of the Megiddo expedition. Megiddo is the only site in Israel that all of the neighboring countries mention. The only site in the Bible that all of the neighboring countries mention. And again, the book of Second Chronicles, chapters 34, 35, and Second Kings in chapter 22 and 23 narrate the story of King Josiah, 16th king of Judah, documents the battle where Egypt played a key role. Now, we have examined what the Bible has to say about Armageddon. In our book, Look Up a Timeline of 50 Last Days Events. Under this book, in event 25, we talk about the sixth bowl judgment, the arrival of the kings of the east, Armageddon, Revelation 16, 13 through 16. And what we talk about is the mountain of Megiddo here was the scene of many past battles. That's what they're talking about here, a past battle regarding King Josiah, the evidence for that. The word Armageddon is derived from the Hebrew Har Megiddo, the mountain of Megiddo. The ancient Israelite town of Megiddo guarded the path of a main caravan route between the plain of Sharon and the valley of Jezreel. In other words, it's always been a very strategic location. Now, in the context here, Armageddon refers to the hill country surrounded by the town of Megiddo. It's a 14 by 20 mile valley there where the staging will take place of this great last battle. Now, what is fascinating, it is only now that archaeological evidence has come to light confirming the ancient biblical account of King Josiah, the Egyptians, etc., about this important battle. This is not a coincidence. We've had a number of confirmations in recent years, events that took place just as the Bible records. And for confirmation of this, see our book, Ancient Mysteries of the Bible Solved. You can see it from our website, Educating Our World, under the heading of the Bible, where we talk about confirmation of many biblical events in our day and age that happened so long ago. Now, here's the key. It's as though God is reminding us that this plot of land, the scene of many battles in the past, will be the staging point for the last great battle before the return of Christ. Again, there is so much happening in our world today that is confirming the truth of Scripture, both past, present, and future. It's amazing. So just coincidentally, right, that the evidence has come forward now in 2025 of this battle, this huge battle in Armageddon, the same place between the king of Judah, Josiah, and some of the powers that be, Egypt and the such like. And Josiah was killed in the battle, actually. Didn't get to see, as the prophet Huldah told him, that the destruction of Jerusalem would be coming soon. And again, it's amazing how it all falls into place right now. We've had, again, story after story in recent years that confirm some of the people and some of the events that the Bible predicts about, many that have reference with respect to the last days. So, again, what a huge story just at this time coming up with all these things taking place, which leads us to talking about fulfilling predictions. Headline number two: Europe wants a bigger defense industry. This is what it looks like now. This is from the Epoch Times. As European countries increase their defense spending to counter the threat from Russia, China, and Iran, sound familiar? Can Europe's arms manufacturers up their game? European countries are ramping up their defense spending in response to growing threats from not just Russia, but also China and Iran. And here's the key: amidst growing concern that the United States could withdraw its military umbrella from the continent, and the European Union is keen to make sure the extra money is spent in Europe itself. On March 18th, the European Union, unveiled a strategy document called Readiness 2030, which encouraged members of the 27-nation bloc to buy as much of their military equipment as possible from suppliers in Europe rather than the United States and further afield. And it says the Aerospace and Defense Security and Defense Industry Association of Europe, which represents 3,000 companies, said the combined industry recorded a turnover of 290.4 billion euros or $317 billion in 2023, a year-on-year increase of 10%. Now, here's the key. We saw a story yesterday, remember? Macron of France advocating a million-man European army to defend their territory, saying the United States is pulling out from being the cash cow for the defense of Europe. Now, this fits perfectly the scripture's prediction of a last days 10-nation European confederation in the time of the end. Sign 12 of our book, 25 signs were near the end. There'd be a 10-nation confederation in Western Europe. Revival, the ancient Roman Empire. Again, another confirmation of what the scripture predicts. The United States is not in the last days Bible prophecy. We're going to basically leave that whole area, the Middle East and Europe, leave it to itself, because our problems in the Far East with China. And so what's going to happen is Europe's going to have to take up its own defense, and this is going to allow the confirmation of what the book of Revelation talks about in Daniel chapter 2 about a last days 10-nation confederation of this revived Roman Empire to be powerful. And they'll have their own army. They'll be powerful because why? They're afraid of the threat specifically from Russia, China, and Iran. So you just can't make this stuff up, can you? It's all falling into place. Now, speaking of Iran, a third confirmation: Iran threatens to target the U.S.-British joint base in the Indian Ocean. This is from the Jewish News Syndicate, again, Diego Garcia. The Diego Garcia base, which is currently hosting multiple B-2 strategic bombers, would be attacked with ballistic missiles and drones should the United States take military action against Iran, said the Iranian state media. Iran has threatened to retaliate against the joint U.S.-UK naval base on Diego Garcia in the Chagos Archipelago, is how you want to pronounce it, if the United States attacks the Islamic Republic. This is the Britain's Telegraph, reported on Saturday. UK Telegraph. Iran possesses adequate weapons for such an attack from its mainland, such as the newer versions of this one missile, Qamar Shahar missile, that has an intermediate range, and the Shahad 136B kamikaze drone with a range of 4,000 kilometers or 2,485 miles, says the Iranian state media warning about this. Now, they say the Americans are well aware how vulnerable they are. They violate Iran's border to be like a spark in the powder keg that would blow up the entire region. Then their allies' bases would not be safe. Now, just to let you know, Diego Garcia, this name keeps coming up. It's located right in the middle of the Indian Ocean, the middle of nowhere. It's roughly 5,200 kilometers or 3,200 miles from Tehran. Multiple U.S. B-2 bombers have arrived at the island last week with a range of 6,900 miles. B-2 is the only stealth aircraft that can carry the GBU-57, a 30,000-pound bunker buster bomb known as the Massive Ordnance Penetrator. This is the Wall Street Journal article the other day on March 27th. The bombers have arrived on the island from their base in Missouri, said a spokesperson for the U.S. Strategic Command. The Wall Street Journal reported. It's an unusual deployment for the B-2. While Diego Garcia hosts Air Force bombers on a fairly regular basis, B-2s haven't spent significant time there since 2020, 4 years ago. Last August marked the first time in 4 years that a B-2 even touched down when a bomber made a quick hot pit stop with its engines running. This from Air and Space Forces magazine on March 27th. And then again, remember, a spokesman for the Air Force Global Strike confirmed the arrival of the B-2s to the magazine, could not comment on why they were there, but President Donald Trump warned that any future attacks from the Yemen-based Houthis would have targeted U.S. naval vessels hundreds of times and wreaked havoc with the global shipping channels would be treated as a direct aggression from Iran itself. And Iran was behind the Houthis' attack, as Trump correctly said. And he said, let nobody be fooled. The hundreds of attacks being made by the Houthis, the sinister mobsters and thugs based in Yemen, who are hated by the Yemeni people, all emanate from and are created by Iran. Uppercase letters, he wrote the post in Truth Social. He dismissed the claims of Iran that they have lost control of the Houthis. Okay, Iran has been playing the innocent victim of rogue terrorists which have lost control, but they haven't lost control, he said. They're dictating every move, and Donald Trump is exactly right, giving them weapons, sophisticated military equipment, and supplying them with intelligence. All right, the days of Iran are numbered as being the major military threat to the United States and Israel in the Middle East, particularly Israel. As we have noted, they're merely a surrogate of Russia at the end times, according to Ezekiel 38:39. It's a Russian invasion that led specifically by a Russian leader, which causes the Lord to destroy all of the soldiers that attack, according to Ezekiel 38:39. And we document this in our book, The Ezekiel 38:39 Invasion, as well as in our book, 25 Signs We're Near the End. And of course, all of these books we mentioned are free downloads from our website, Educating Our World. So here we have three huge stories, archaeological findings that confirm again another biblical event, the Battle of Armageddon then in the 7th century BC. Also, too, we have a second headline, and that is Europe now is preparing to put its own army together, realizing the United States, who is not going to be a player in last days Bible prophecy, is leaving them on their own, and they can certainly do that. And as Macron said, we can put together a 1,000,000-man army. Fits perfectly with what Scripture talks about. The European Union, whatever it looks like in the last days, will be a 10-nation confederation. It'll whittle down from the 27 right now to basically control Europe and be a defense and be an offensive weapon, to be a powerful, powerful union there. And then finally, of course, Iran, which is, bombastically saying, well, we're going to attack Diego Garcia and the base there and with the U.S. military, and we'll make sure that, they pay the price. Well, believe me, like we said before, the weapons that are there at Diego Garcia, as we have noted, almost some of them out of like science fiction, they're so powerful, and afraid for Iran's sake, they're going to see them happen very, very soon. We know the Houthis are too in Yemen. So you see all these things coming together. These three stories all set the stage what the Bible predicts our world is going to look like in the last days. It's no coincidence that this archaeological discovery is made. It's no coincidence that Europe now wants to build its own army. It's no coincidence that Iran is about to be attacked by the U.S. to put it not as the main military issue, main military force in the Middle East that threatens Israel, but as a secondary force. And that's exactly as the Scripture predicts. There'll still be a force, but they'll be secondary to Russia, who, again, once they get out of the Ukraine conflict, one way or another, will then eventually set its sights on Israel. So everything is falling into place. It's literally amazing. You can't make this stuff up. I'm Don Stewart. Thanks for watching. Until next time, we'll do another program later today. May the Lord richly, richly bless.